languages, of course, and so
Go to Churchill, I think. We need rare fish.
yeah.
When
Rare fish
offered a
sounds
chance
good.
at rare fish, one must take it.
Yeah, so part of the, in addition to just localizing tons of words, having to make like the sentence structure, the pronouns, all that kind of stuff work in each different language was part of the localization challenge on Pyre.
I always wondered, asked HCP, how do harps do anything without hands?
Yes.
Yes.
It's funny, I get that one a lot too.
Yeah, this is
that's
this
a
is-
point of discussion. You
Because
know, we
they're-
talk about
they're-
every detail around here. I'd like to think so.
Yeah.
It comes up, and
But the lack of hands is not a downside thing.
No.
Right? They've had no hands in the Commonwealth as well.
don't open your mind to the possibilities. I would say they work with their feet.
Yeah.
They work with their incredibly dexterous wing tips and what have you. So yeah,
So they
try not to.
They make it work.
The thing about yeah, we can make our advances on Joe Dariel here. We can attempt to do so. Yeah, this scene, it's a tender scene with Joe Dariel, but she has a particular taste. Yeah, in any case, I hope, you know, the thing about the question of like how do harps eat with a knife and fork and stuff like that, it's like hopefully more fun to think about than frustrating. And if you go too far down that line of thinking, I have words of caution around it, because you can kind of talk yourself out of any aspect of fantasy fiction making sense if you go too far down the line of expecting like real world
You gotta keep at it.
realism. Yeah.
We have to keep going for fish.
Hours pass.
No
Nothing.
Fish. The fish are winning.
Reader 0, and this in fact is we had more fishing events in some iterations of the game where this tally over.
You want to talk about cut content?
Yeah, Vow Vengeance. There were
There were
more
not just
fishing
dude,
interactions.
not only was there more fishing interactions, there was like 1 million fish.
We shipped the fish. There are many different. There are many different fish names in this game. Yeah,
Supergiant games.
you're just like likely to go through the
yeah.
entire game finding only.
We shipped
oh,
the fish.
Our next.
Let
Word
us
of
not
Rookie.
let us not be accused of not shipping the fish.
Yes, there are many different fish that you can find, and you'll probably find 0 to 1 of them during a single playthrough. So we heard from Rookie. He's doing all right. He has chosen to take part in the plan that Volfred has outlined, where we will all stand together, shoulder to shoulder, on the other side and demand that the Commonwealth change its ways. The messenger imp, dutifully. I think there's like a small detail in the writing of the ones that can occur here that it kind of like finds its way to you, even by land or sea.
Oh, yeah.
So we had to account for the fact that sometimes those events can happen when you're at the water.
So this is the Isle of Kaelmer,
Yeah,
which
the last of the
know-
locations that we
gotta
put
check
together.
in with Ron though before we get. How did he? Yeah, I love this implication that you actually were looking for him. And he's talking about how he has a ton of customers, which I feel like is a specious.
The jeweled band.
Oh yeah, Jewel Band and Rune Band. So actually part of the these are supposed to be for a couple of lovebirds.
I'm gonna get them for myself.
Yeah, that's more Ron deep lore, which is I know why all 2,800 of you have tuned in is to learn more about Falcon Ron. The
pricing on the on these items, the double eights,
the double
very
eights.
symbolic.
Yeah, there's also I think the idea that he would buy a pair of wedding rings just for himself is really like critical to the understanding of the kind of person that Ron is.
Let's make Joe Dariel and Pamitha really uncomfortable.
Okay, we'll make them the Rune Band, Jewel Band holders.
I guess it's not clear which is which, but good enough.
It's also our opportunity for the first time in our game to have a set bonus.
Yeah.
Which we have not had in a previous game. We haven't even had sets. We haven't even really had
not
items.
only bonuses, but
yeah. So it's exciting for us to have those little things, those like small touches from RPGs that we loved and inspired us, and you know, here there's just like a sort of brief nod to that in the Rune Band and Jewel Band.
Poor Gilman.
Oh yeah, Gilman confessions.
Here's where he's really he is definitely struggling with the decision that he's made. This is also like an example of some of the dynamic narrative coming together. It's not only this kind of Sir Gilman side story, but it's also the introduction of the Owl of Kelmer. These events had to make sense together or in any combination, so they're happening here because we're about to confront Sir Deluge. Should I press my luck? Dude, if they have +8 presence, I'm gonna get totally destroyed.
But it's not a liberation right? So
yeah.
Who is it?
It's Deluge. Yeah, I'll try it.
Dude, that's totally.
I'm gonna get annihilated.
No,
right?
it's just that's just the trails being longer.
Yeah.
For I think it's
Alright.
actually totally okay for the Pyre Hearts.
We'll see.
I mean, I don't have to play the
Yeah.
right, so it's easy for me to say that.
You get the next, or no, I'm doing the whole cycle. Yeah, and then I'll pass back to you.
So Will Saber asks, what is the algorithm that calculates banishment time? That's actually so like a lot. Great, you ask. You're asking the right people. There is a kind of like a I believe it's a table. It's not quite an equation.
I love this line. Sorry to
Oh, it's
interrupt
fine.
you. The gibbering nitwits line.
Yes. Basically, it's determined by the higher hope you have, it goes up to a max basically, and on hope in particular, there's some diminishing returns at the top end, so it's not directly 1-to-1, and at the bottom end as well. So I think the range is something like 2 to 15 seconds is the banishment time range in the game. This is the Owl of Kilmer. This was us having a little bit of fun with our own thing, our own video game.
Yeah, and yet it still works.
Yeah.
I think with the, we can have a little fun with it, but still have it make sense. We think of these native imps of the Isle have turned the rites into a bit of a spectator event. They don't have too much else to do here on the Isle, so why not rejoice in watching the glorious competition unfold? They have their little pennants, and Faye is lending emotional support to Gilman, and Sir Gilman, of course, says on guard, or Sir Deluge rather, of course, says on guard, which was necessary.
Yeah, this
The imps.
the imp yelling is just our team.
Yes.
If you're interested in how we made that, there's a video that we will make even more public. It was submitted in our blast, but yeah, it'll come around.
Yeah, and the feats of glory, these little
yeah.
challenges that get introduced, so you can earn a little more.
That's actually an interesting thing that was also
Yeah.
iterated on. The feats of glory in Pyre originally were going to be given to you by the minstrel.
Yeah, that's right.
But when we got to iterate on that introduction, we actually put it in and made it as part of the imps thing.
Yeah, we had versions of. Remember the minstrel was going to be like a full-on like quest giver.
Oh, yeah.
And stuff like that. Again, it just didn't really. Oof.
You need to be banishing more.
Ouch. Yeah. I think I should try to like wipe them out. I better focus on this though.
Yeah, you focus on playing,
Yeah.
and I will go back over here. Samson Strikes says, nice work, just jumped in. Steam is cooler now. Thank you. Yep, we appreciate you watching us, the developers of this here video game Pyre, play through it ourselves a year after it's come out, and share stories of its development. Steek says, nice, I applied a while ago to Supergiant Game with a cover letter, wanted to buy you guys a beer at some point. Thank you for applying to the positions we had open, which we have currently filled. We appreciate it. Sorry we were unable to get back to you, but you can always hang out with us. We're going to be at PAX West coming up in August and September, and we hope to see you there. Drop by and say hello. Gigi Reed says, I thought it was pronounced deluge, but
I'm pronouncing it like the Archjustice has his cheeky deluge pronunciation,
Yeah,
so I was more imitating him.
Yeah, so unclear what the canon is there, but that's why you tune into the stream,
Yes.
so you can get answers to your burning pronunciation
As a
questions.
tiny bit of inside baseball on it, we do try to make sure that we have some of these names that can look a little bit unusual. One of the nice things about having voiceover is we do try to make sure that you hear a spoken instance of kind of location names and character names. This is true in Transistor as well, so that because it can be annoying. You like read through a book or something, and you think a name is pronounced one way, and then the movie comes out. You're like, your whole world shatters when you realize you've been pronouncing something incorrectly the whole time. So we do have, I think we have canonical pronunciations of at least a lot of stuff, and if you listen to the voice throughout the game, as Sir Deluge continues to rock my world here. I'm doing all right.
No, you're gonna win. Oh no, you're not. You still. I mean, you
I
may
got-
still.
I got-
I sorry.
I
I thought
got
you meant.
this.
I meant. I thought you were gonna win right there. Izzy asked if the stars are aligning over Kilmer, and that is actually a sign that the rites are ending. How have the imps there developed a whole culture around the rites?
Yes. They had a lot of time to prepare.
Yeah. So there's actually implications in the Book of Rites that this location is
It's
old.
like a this is cursed cursed ground for the rites to take place.
Yeah.
Poke all the holes you want to try, poke away.
Yeah. No, now's the time.
When
Now while
you
have a
can,
chance.
the Book of Rites, written like a religious text, will endlessly frustrate you by providing answers as well as contradictions. Having a book that can be contradictory with itself, actually in a roundabout way, conveniently lets you justify almost any aspect of your world fiction, as it turns out.
So, a question from Gigi Reeds: how come you went with a more modern setting in this arena than the others with the white lines and stuff? Is it modern with this arena, Isle of Kilmer, or is it ancient?
Yes, that's right.
One of the side inspirations for the competitions here is actually like how old a lot of competitive human efforts are. Some that date back to like
Mesoamerican.
Mesoamerican stuff, and where I remember going to Chichen Itza and stuff and seeing these competitive fields that did have things that look like markers and stuff on them. So for us, a big part of that is actually I get the implication, and there is some winking going on, of course, but that a lot of these locations are actually quite old has been a part of the fiction of this game for a long time, and actually is inspired by some of the stuff in the real world.
This one, I love this one a lot.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Fell swoop.
Until the stars align.
The voice is classic send-off.
Oh, we failed the feat of glory because we didn't kill two people with the
Oh,
Nordcast.
yes.
Sorry, chat. Yes,
Well,
we were so caught up in talking about it.
I had bigger fish to fry there for a second, but yes.
Okay, so the hard-hitting questions are now coming in from Nick Soros, who's asking, would you rather live in Bastion pre-calamity, Transistor, which I'm assuming Transistor, Cloudbank in the probably during the events of the game, or
during the events of the game or before?
Well, I'm making his question harder. Actually, you know what? The only way to make this fair is it has to be before.
Yeah.
Okay, so Bastion pre-calamity, Cloudbank pre-process takeover, and Pyre. So let's just assume we're living in the downside.
Or the Commonwealth. I think I think that has a fairly easy answer. I think Cloudbank, dare I say, is the correct answer insofar as that's a world where there is no suffering, everything is kind of provided for, and you could be whatever you want to be. For sure, Bastion's pre-calamity world would have been. That's a hard living kind of world with people like the kid, working on walls and drinking distillery spirits and whatever at whatever indeterminate yet young age he is. And the Commonwealth doesn't sound like that fun of a place. Or the downside, maybe you meet some of these. Let's go rub something in Manly's face right here.
Okay.
But yeah, so Cloudbank sounds like it might have been an awesome place to live on the whole, maybe besides some mundane voting on things of little consequence. But,
yeah, I think
Cloudbank sounded pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, I was a fan of Cloudbank. I would actually I'm going to choose based entirely on massive spoilers, ending art and scenes from this game from Pyre. I might pick Commonwealth. I know it's oppressive and whatever else.
Or the Union, as it were, the post Commonwealth. The post Commonwealth is probably
that's
really
cheating, but I'll do it.
No, that's a good call. That's probably a good place, at least for for the foreseeable future.
I'm all over the place in chat. Sorry guys, but there's a reference earlier. They were to Discworld, which especially a character called Dibbler. I don't think Greg has read Discworld.
I'm familiar with Discworld.
Yeah,
I haven't
so
read every book.
I have read
played the video game.
Yeah, I have read almost all of
Yeah, I know
Pratchett's
Rincewind and whatnot.
Yeah, Discworld stuff. I love it. I didn't make the character of Falcon Run, so it's not a direct reference or anything. I just wanted to shout out Discworld because I'm a fan as well. So appreciate you bringing it up so we could remember that together here in chat.
+2 presence permanently.
There we go.
Sir Gilman has come to grips with his knighthood and his honor, at least in some respect.
Vent is asking, how much does the art change from the beginning to the end of the game cycle? The 3 games are also different. Is there ever a Franken portion of the cycle where they look closer to the last game? Yes. So that is true. The answer is yes. At the very beginning, it looks a lot like the last game. So the original prototypes for Pyre's Rights featured 3 characters, who look like Red, basically fighting off against each other, and that's how the prototyping phase for us works. So we often use art from the old game just to prototype the new game, and there is a Frankenstein-y look to it for sure. And it's really important to us to swap that out as fast as we can so we can start losing the associations with the previous games.
Yeah.
But because we all kind of, when we make something new, we all kind of start on it at the same time. It's important for us to be able to all work on it. And, Greg and I can't wait around to get started in prototyping. So yeah, there is a Frankenstein-y portion of the game. And for anyone who's followed Bastion's development or watched us do a Giant Bomb series called Building the Bastion, that game didn't have anything to Frankenstein because it was our first game. So the thing we did was just scan pictures out of old D&D books of skeletons and mudmen and creatures from our youth, basically, to put together a very freakishly looking game until Jen joined and could do the actual art for it. It
really helps in the prototyping to have basically temporary artwork. It keeps such a time-intensive part of game development is polishing everything to look a final way, and the moment you make a small design change, it tends to have a big ripple effect on all the art and presentation. Mm-hmm. So this is a fun event. These are the kind of few times you get to see the opposing triumvirates talk to each other. These are fully dynamic.
A lot of talk about pizza. That Cloudbank has pizza.
Cloudbank does have flatbread, but close enough.
Yeah.
Are we still going are we still earning money to earn Ron's favor?
I think we're good on talismans. I think it's time to study.
Yeah, we should be studying some more, especially if we're playing with Titan Stars and whatnot.
Yeah, I think a big thing we're running into now is with Titan Stars on, the opponents are starting to outpace the stats of our exiles. So so we're kind of playing with our backs against the wall in almost all of these. G Reeds asks, how much background lore information do you have about the Saurian Union, or do you not world build sort of that far out? Because it was sort of at the end of the game's story.
Yeah, I mean, there's I'm paraphrasing that's fun back in Downside Prairie with Falcon Ron, but there's to paraphrase a Tolkien quote, it's people ask him about the story of the mountains in the distance, and you always have to have the mountains in the distance to give an impression of the whole world, but the moment people ask about the story of those mountains, then you need the mountains beyond those to also be there, if that is a bit of a fail of a paraphrase. But this key moment. The point is the Saurian Union is absolutely set up and established and implied, but what happens next is certainly to be determined. I think the future may unfold as it will. The future of the Saurian Union is I would say not necessarily known, but it seems to be starting in a good spot. Here's my good friend. I'm really glad that this exchange and this relationship made it into the game. There are some really cool interactions, I think, between these two. Oralek has been alluded to loosely as someone presumed dead, and Volfred truly believed that he was dead, but he is seeing him flesh and blood alive and much more of a demon than last they met each other. Oralek was someone who was betrayed during a liberation rite. This is I'm going to get absolutely annihilated.
Is this their thing?
Yeah. Well, basically, if sure. I mean, I'm just gonna 50% stamina. Yeah. I mean, we could see like what is the most punishing the game can be, basically.
Yeah, but you haven't dropped one yet, even with Titan Stars. So.
No, I did. Or
I did.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I dropped.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this is an encounter that even if you're not playing with Titan Stars, we don't necessarily expect you to win.
What lunacy is this?
Yeah. So Oralek has arrived to disrupt some of the proceedings of the plans. Having been betrayed in the rites before, he believes he is owed a chance to be free.
Is upset too.
Yeah, this is not part of the plan.
Yeah.
What is going on here? And part of the story is that Oralek was part of the Nightwings himself, so he represents the true Nightwings. You are the false Nightwings, according to him. At any rate, and they have their cool inverted colors. So yeah, we were supposed to run into Manly, but alas.
Yeah.
I like how sinister the implication is with the small smirk on his face. But Volfred is like, dude. Yeah, story unfolding. We hope. Yeah, if you haven't played this game before, this is big time spoiler country. Just so you're aware, we are deep into this game.
Yeah, if you haven't played this game before and you're wondering what you're watching Pyre, the third game from our studio, Supergiant Games, and Greg and I are two of the developers who worked on it, and we're playing it now, and we're getting some big answers. Not even big answers, actually, just more questions.
That's right.
But
Monkey wrenches thrown into our plans.
But it does harken back to something that I think was exciting for both of us working on the game early on, which is the idea that actually the triumvirate you're a part of is a bit of like they're imposters. And
yeah.
this is that's implied early on, right? Where we say something about like how
yeah, like
where
when
did
you
the
first
wagon come from?
when
And where did
you
all this
first
come
face
from?
Lendl, and it's like a case of mistaken identity. He just assumes you know who he is, but none of your guys are like, do we know you? So you realize the Nightwings have a lot of over the course of the game, you start to realize that the Nightwings have a lot of history.
Did the voice have any other voice's way of speaking in development before you settle on the one we have now?
Yeah, you were saying before, we found his voice like pretty quickly. There were versions of it that were more or less ridiculous.
You have the crazy
oh boy, Oralek is no joke.
So actually, we talked earlier. So, and then the other question from Will Saber, is there any kind of voice Logan can't do? No. So
Yeah.
he's been so many characters for us.
He's actually
Yeah.
Bertrude as well.
Yeah.
We've now met all of his. Oh wow, that was very, very fast.
So, one of the things we were talking about earlier too is like when we were talking about our favorite archetypes or whatever was the imp.
I like this exchange, Oralek Hedwyn conversation.
Yeah.
He thinks Hedwyn has been the one who replaced him.
Yeah. So the
Dissing on Hedwyn.
the true
Nobody
Nightwings
disses on Hedwyn like that.
have many great qualities to their actual triumvirate.
Yeah,
and how they're built. But one of my favorite things about them is they have the best imp in the game.
Yeah.
Which
Ixa.
Ixa, yeah,
Ixa and Gareth.
Yeah.
He only rolls with two. They actually have a very small triumvirate, right? They don't have like a lot of members. I think it's only those two whenever you encounter them. And it's funny because those characters, all they are their kind of actions in the rites and their names. You don't really get to meet them as characters. But I've seen folks in the community like they really like those characters just kind of in what they represent, just as people who would have sided with Oralek in what he's doing and are pretty badass as rights practitioners here.
Yeah, I think they're.
Oh man,
they're also.
yeah, Gareth like messes me up every time I.
Yeah,
it's tough.
when you encounter them, they have the level 3 masteries already because they are experienced rights practitioners, and so it was super cool to actually work on the triumvirate and design them, and figure out who should they have. And interestingly enough, I think the least encountered, the type of exile you're likely to encounter least is the imp, actually, but only marginally so.
In like among all of the.
Among all of the.
Really,
yeah.
I thought.
Oh no, it might be the saps. Actually.
Yeah, it's probably the sap, I
Yeah,
would say.
yeah, it's probably
But
the
there's
sap.
yeah, who else has a sap? I think no, not the essence because
Someone else has a friendly sap. I forget who. There are a couple triumvirates where it's a little bit random because they actually have rosters that are quite a bit larger than
Yeah.
just the 3, and so actually at this point in the game, a lot of triumvirates actually draft, kind of like they pick a triumvirate that they want to field against you, and there can be different permutations.
I probably should have. We're going through this game at somewhat of a fast clip, but the wiser thing to do before going into this one, besides maybe not activating all the Titan stars, would have been to check out their. We could have taken a look at their triumvirate before the rite began and sort of counterpick them a little bit more.
That was a good last minute kill.
Oh man. See,
Ooh,
Gareth
down to 1.
Down to 1. Well, Oralek is showing me what is.
This is a hard right when you encounter the true Nightwings anyway. Like, it's already.
If you've won every right by this point, it's pretty likely that this is your moment of defeat, such as was mine.
This is from Sirith. I'd like to say a big thank you for all the beautiful stuff that you're creating. I don't know which game I love more, which I love more, the design, or the colors, or the music. As for the music, do you have a favorite piece in each of all of the games? Mine remains Mother, I'm Here.
Favorite piece of music, man. It's tough. It's like as someone who has actual children, it really is like asking. There is not disingenuous analogy in saying it's like asking you to choose a favorite child, because like we have to, our love of what we're working on is like what makes us power through these projects, I think, and it's really so I feel really similarly when someone says like, what's your favorite game out of the ones that we made. I just get paralyzed because I love different aspects. I love them in different ways, and it's just hard to choose.
Yeah,
Bastion is like the first game we ever worked on, so
Yeah.
of course it has a special place in our hearts for that reason. But you could go down the list with every single game.
So for me, because I don't have children, I can answer which music piece I like the most. Which I think probably today it's not that. For me, it just changes a lot. Probably depends on what I'm working on. What
there
I'm
you
looking
go. You have a complicated answer anyway.
But I have a straight one, which
Okay.
is, for me, it's the ending song in this game. It's the most ambitious and biggest piece of music we've made because it has so many permutations, and it's so reactive to your play experience, because it takes into account a lot of the decisions you made, including about the gender of your character or any of these other things. And so I also have to listen to the music of this game a lot when I have done the credit sequences in each of our games. And so the thing about that, listening to it over and over, is it changes so much that even having to listen to it hundreds of times, I never really tired of it. And I still can hear it. And so that part of it, for me, it still works on me, even though I've heard it so many times. So it's been one of the more resilient pieces for me. I don't even know what it's called, actually.
Bound Together. You know what
Bound
it's
Together,
called.
yeah.
You blank on the names when we're
also
streaming,
the music gets names later, which is one
that is sometimes right. We do name them. Yeah, we tend to name the pieces sometimes in batches. It's yet another opportunity to like tie them strongly to the game experience and stuff.
My ping says this is my favorite game from you guys. I love
Thank you.
VNs. I love high skill ceilings. Thanks for making something that ticks so many boxes for me.
It's awesome. Thank
What else? Are those flames rendered in 3D? Not quite, but they are. They are. So Josh Barnett is our visual effects artist. He worked on Transistor and worked on this game, and he frequently utilizes the power of math and procedural, like procedural. I don't know how you say procedural. It's like he. It's not that he's sitting there with a paintbrush like Jen, a digital paintbrush. He's using different kind of like algorithms and methods to assist in creating his art. And so he is like we think of him sometimes as half man, half machine. Because
Josh.
Yeah, because he's able to pull together like kind of techniques that require a little bit more of a high tech mind to pull together. So I don't know how he made that flame effect, but I do know generally that he is, I guess, a cyborg or an android.
Yeah.
I don't know which one is the one where you're part machine, but he's one of those.
Cyborg.
Cyborg. There we go.
Android is full robot, but human.
Oh, there we
looking,
go.
Like
Yes.
Blade Runner.
Okay, I understand now. Nick Source is wondering why are Orlek's horns so withered. Lyric says, I love Orlek with all my heart.
Orlek fell down a mountain, presumably to his death. Of course, his horns probably sprouted after that.
Mm-hmm.
Orlek's had some trouble putting himself back together. It seems reasonable for his horns to be in not the best of shape. There's, we liberated, bittersweetness is part of the game experience of most Supergiant games, I suppose, in varying degrees, and certainly Pyre is no exception. But I think some of my favorite interactions in the game are between Orlek and Tizo. But since Tizo has been liberated, Orlek wouldn't have those things to say. But Orlek and Tizo, the imp, have a lot of history, seeing as Orlek used to be part of the Nightwings himself, so they go way back.
I am sad that we didn't get that interaction, but it is.
There's two of them too. If you carry Tizo into, they're very specific, right? You need to have Tizo still with you. Include him in the right, and then once more when you face Orlek much later in the game, there's a second interaction they can have I also like a lot.
Izzy says this is the one right I find fitting to be annihilated on. That's actually something I wanted to touch on as well when we got through the True Nightwings encounter. It's similar to the airship moment. We can never say, something is like a direct influence, but there is a trope there, right? Which is the kind of
the unwinnable.
The unwinnable fight in the RPG. The thing is, that one has been winnable, and there are outcomes, and people have beat that on the team multiple times. But there are outcomes where you win it, and I think for us we were sort of playing with that trope a bit to have a fight that was really, really hard, where maybe some of those exiles had masteries and talismans where almost like they were playing min-maxing, whether or not you were. And I think that was part of the point of view on it, to introduce you to that. Of course, a big component of that trope is that you can't face them only once.
Yes, you need to have a real shot at them.
Yeah.
It's also, it's not just a game trope, right? It's like it is a competitive story trope of like whether it's a martial arts tournament or like a, football season or whatever. You have Major League or something. You fight the Yankees and you get totally crushed, and then you face them. Then you claw your way up to the World Series again, and then you get your shot at a comeback. Of course, that comeback opportunity with Orlek takes its own turns that are I think once again steer away from the trope.
Who are some of your favorite adversaries, either gameplay or story-wise? My favorite to play against gameplay-wise is actually, it's for a really specific reason, is actually Manly, which is not my favorite to play against story-wise. Manly, from a gameplay perspective, has the most varied triumvirate. I think Manly has the most diverse roster of exiles. I think he ends up with almost one of each.
Yeah, or the Beyonders technically, but
the Beyonders have probably they have a deeper bench. But I really like that about him because it also means that it's a little bit more varied of an experience sometimes. And for someone like me who's played it a bunch, I really like not knowing what I'm gonna see when I pick him. I don't know, Greg, if you have an answer there.
I think I keep finding myself. I've talked about the Dissidents a lot on this stream. Maybe I'll just go with them because they're like, we wanted the different triumvirates to have like their own like really specific flavor. And the dissidents are like the ones that really they really stand out. Their music is like so assertive and in your face and stuff. And I think Barker turned out. I loved Jen's design of Barker, and I think Barker came together really nicely. Also, Cyrus Nabati's performance as the kind of little voice quips of Barker. He sounds like such a little like slime ball like kind of guy, this ratty kind of character who turns out to be not quite as bad as he first appears. So
Ron, check in. Welcome back.
yeah, we've talked to Ron every single time. He's
So
still
more
complaining about the
implication that he's
temperature.
been there for a really long
Yeah,
time.
what's the bottled
Which
void.
means even when you get the airship, he somehow gets there way faster. Than
Yes. Almost as though
you. Yeah.
whether he there is anyway, no, we can't give away, although
No,
we've
already said too
provided
much.
some. That's right, we've said too much about Ron.
No, I mean, or not enough. Unclear. We'll find out.
One of those two.
Yeah.
Either too much or not enough.
For those of us watching us laugh at our own jokes, it's 3:30. We've been streaming our own video game, Pyre, now for quite some time.
Pick some of these up.
And we are Supergiant Games. I'm Amir. This is Greg. We're headed into the third liberation, right?
Yep.
Or third or fourth? Yeah, third liberation, right? And we're answering some of our questions from chat as we head into this, right? And one of them, which because I'm behind, is from Bent. Being a small independent studio, how do you decide to go into crunch mode or make announcements? I imagine even announcing a game would be as stressful being so close to the project. You imagine right. I think one of the stress is interesting because there's like the stress of working, and there's also the fear of that we've talked about actually on previous streams. We have been really lucky to have an audience that's followed us from original game to original game and is love what we do. And the announcement is particularly, particularly fearful for us because even when we make something with confidence, you can never know how it's going to be received. So both announcement and launch are periods of great kind of uncertainty for us. We of course only put the stuff out there that we're proud of and that we stand behind, but you never know how the world will react to the stuff you make, and so there is a lot of kind of anticipation, I would say, and a healthy kind of fear around how people will react to it.
Yeah, that's right. If we were never like, it's one of those things. Just like I'm not a theater performer or whatever, but you hear this from actors and stuff. It's like if all aspects of that kind of stage fright, the anxiety before the performance, you want to have some of that. It's just kind of, it reminds you that you care about the outcome and that you're kind of giving it your all. You're putting yourself out there with this work. So
And
we have to feel something toward that.
In terms of crunch mode, for us, the one of actually the important studio values we have here is around being someone who where work kind of contours to your life, and that means being able both to put in as much as you feel like the game needs, and also to make sure that it fits nicely in your life, that work and life don't have to be in competition. That gets hard around things like announcements and around shipping the game. The trade-offs can become unclear for you even personally. So we're not going to pretend like we haven't pulled like long hours around the announcements and around the finaling of our games. Those things have happened here, and at the same time, we try to always make sure that we're making the right trade-offs, and that the people themselves who work here are in control of how they work and when they work and how much they put in. That's been really important to us, and that's a discovery over time of what you can do and what you want to do, really, and so I appreciate the question because it gave me an opportunity to talk about the studio values and how we think about those things. But we're going to figure out who we're going to anoint here, and now we have 4 choices.
We could do the most, like, one of the most soul-crushing possible liberation rights is, of course, Tamitha versus Pamitha, where it's one or the other at stake. I almost don't want to put Pamitha through that.
Yeah?
I don't know. We could. You wanna. I'm not gonna. We'll hold on to Faye longer, but let's put Joe Dariel up for the opportunity. She's been here for 16 years. It's about time that maybe she has a shot. You can look at what let me actually have a look at what the Essence are doing here. Oh boy, so they have the essentially the Pyre heal. No, they have a plus 25 health to start with. They move fast, and then they move faster, and then they have like full. They are fully enlightened, so they are going to be a challenge. Shikara and Umani flying side by side with Tamitha there. All right, let's do it.
We have questions that I'm going to return to at some point because I kind of missed some of the stuff around the True Nightwings. But for now, we're going to focus on the conflict at stake here, I guess, between Pamitha and Tamitha, right?
Yeah. This is another one. You know, this this particular outcome where Pamitha is still in your so you may go through this entire game never even facing the essence in a liberation rite, let alone with Pamitha still on your triumvirate. But this particular combination of events leads to, I think, some of the most dramatic kind of possible narrative outcomes in this game, and I'm glad that I've heard from a lot of players that this is one of the rights where players have found themselves like in a real kind of moral dilemma where even when in a position to prevail, they have sometimes opted to let their adversaries have it due to an event that will occur here where Pamitha is really conflicted about what should happen here because she feels that her sister, well, it's not even her feeling, it's the reality that her sister has been exiled because of her actions, and she is trying to make things right between the two of them. So now here Pamitha is with a chance to either kind of betray her sister again or help her sister finally, you know, go back to her previous life. Here's that moment. Yeah, she asks you pretty explicitly. I may let her have her wish whether I like it or not, seeing as we may need to tone it down with the Titan Stars. We're playing the game at the absolute kind of maximum difficulty at this stage, and we're actually kind of getting rocked, even though the early going was not too bad. The Titan Stars make our adversaries quite a bit more capable. Oh no, yeah.
That was pretty good.
This is also a cool variation on Never to Return because I love the kind of the flamenco-esque percussion of the Essence theme. Oh.
I think it's okay for at least one of these adversaries to go free.
Yeah, Tamitha is a good one. Tamitha is one of those characters. You know, she doesn't come across it. Oh wow, that was like a pass and she was set up there.
Yep.
Tamitha doesn't necessarily come across like one of the main characters of the story, but when we were creating all the epilogue permutations, she turned out to have some of the most ending permutations of any character, just because her story is so connected to the events that happen at the end of the game, because she vows, you know, fire and vengeance on the Commonwealth, and she's going to be part of what happens. Oh boy, no. Yeah, the Essence are not messing around here.
Yep, and you are one score from loss.
Yeah.
155.
Yeah, thank you for letting me know. Never
Pyre,
tell me
away.
the odds or something like that. Oh boy. Oh, the fake out.
That was a smart to jump there, though.
Yeah. Not good.
You have the whole thing back now.
They just they come back so quickly. Oh, I'm doom.
Yeah,
Certain doom. All right. Well. Yeah, Pamitha, I thought about what you were asking, and I
decided to give it to you.
Decided to let her win.
Sadly,
so at least the Archjustice, the voice, is pleased with us being crushed.
Straight up
it's
here,
good.
of course, is that Jody is not going to go home.
Jody wouldn't have expected. You know, Jody is a bit of a cynical soul, so she probably wouldn't have expected to prevail in this one anyway. Though she's probably none too pleased that her most hated enemies are going in her place. Yeah, that's a good one. It's good that we did fail one of these. I mean, we've been talking about how this game has the story advances whether you succeed or fail at every turn, and this is my preferred way to experience this game personally, where you get to see these outcomes where they're like, well, wasn't my day, I guess. She's been here for 16 years. She could wait a little longer, she supposes. And meanwhile, Tamitha here is about to go home, and she is none, gives us her last words. I love this part of the music, yeah. Darren's little riffs.
There is a question actually about the True Nightwings, which I forgot to get to. But do you want to do it now, or you want to see this one through?
No, sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's since spoilers are okay at this point, I like to ask: are Orla's companions intentionally trying to replicate the old Nightwings? An imp with Tizo and a savage with Orisa. There's some implication around that, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's like I think some of those. It's awesome that you found that kind of connection. I think if you think of it from Orlek's point of view, he probably didn't have too much of a, they're implied to be characters who might have helped him, nursed him back to health, but for sure Orlek is someone who to some extent is living in the past and trying to relive this particular moment, and you can imagine how he might be drawn to characters who might remind him of the Nightwings before he was betrayed. So that's a cool observation.
I am myself about to take a brief break. We'll come back to questions in the chat while Greg guides you through this next cycle of the rites.
Yeah, and then lick my wounds here.
Yeah.
Actually, it's a cool. There's a sequence here with Tamitha where she's gonna acknowledge what just happened.
Until the rites begin anew.
Yeah, so this is one of the more, we had to make choices about which of the different story outcomes to kind of invest more time and story into, but the storyline between Pamitha and Tamitha really deserved to be a point of focus, and we needed to have these kind of special case situations when the two characters confronted each other in this particular outcome. So I'm glad that in our playthrough here today that we had that happen, and that was like a genuine loss that I suffered, and now here we are. Pamitha is kind of drinking alone after what just happened. Her sister, who she betrayed, is now liberated. So it's a pretty heavy moment, but a moment of bonding with Pamitha as well. So she, I think she offers you a drink here, if I'm not mistaken, with her unlimited moonshine. Yeah. Well, this is no choice at all, if I say so myself. Yeah. So you learn something about Pamitha here. If her loyalties were ever in question, they're no longer in question now. And the rest of your triumvirate, they know you did your best. However, this is the moment that the stars are fading. Now we know that we're on a clock, as it were. Previously, we thought that we would be able to get everyone out of the downside eventually, but we come to realize that that is not the case. We have a finite number of chances. We don't know exactly how many yet, but it may not be many. The cycle of the rites is accelerating. So previously, we thought the plan was going smoothly, and now a wrench has been thrown into it. And it's kind of a darker moment in the story all in all. It's also darker, kind of, I think, dynamically due to the outcome of the previous rite as a more kind of emotionally severe outcome. But let me pick these mushrooms there. Thank you, Blackcap. What's wrong with Hedwyn? Ah, yes, the Hedwyn-Pamitha conversation. Yeah, this is where, it's a fun interaction between Hedwyn and Pamitha, where we learn more about Hedwyn's past. We learn about Fikani, that Hedwyn, to the seeming chagrin of some of you folks out there, seems to be spoken for, alas, but c'est la vie, right? But there aren't that many harps still around, and yeah, Hedwyn fell in love with a harp that would have been highly, highly taboo back in the Commonwealth. And Pamitha happens to know her, not too well, but a little bit. And they kind of talk about her a little bit. We learn kind of what a big part of what's motivating Hedwyn personally to hopefully get back to the Commonwealth one day if he can. At least Hedwyn knows that she's still alive because he was worried that perhaps she would have been killed or something like that since the Harps and the Commonwealth have been perpetually at war. I'll check in with old Sandra. We have she doesn't want to talk to us right now. We haven't been doing the scribe trials because this is a relatively long game for us, and we hope to get through it as part of this stream. So, but Sandra, I hope you will forgive me. We have the Chastity and the Fate high up in the standings these days. Maybe the Dissidents will pull something together. The stars are fading. The idea of how many liberation rights are remaining is now on the board as a consideration. But let us move on and make haste. We'll return to Moonlight Alcove and see what happens. And I think this is the point in the game where it's kind of the last of these like little intermission type moments at Moonlight Alcove, and from here on out it starts to accelerate much more quickly as the cycle of the rites draws to a close. This is the point in the story, where you're really confronted with the question of who most deserves their freedom, knowing, you thought you were going to get everybody out, but what if you can only help a few of your remaining friends? Who should it be? We wanted these to be poignant questions, not to be questions that were like super paralysis inducing. And I see oh yes, I'll interrupt myself there. This is the much more information about what happened to the Nightwings of old, the sort of what I call the classic Nightwings. We learn about Brighton, who was a member of the Nightwings who was liberated to make room for Volfred later. And we learn about Oralek's betrayal at the hands of another exile of the Nightwings called Erisa. And she pushed him from the mountaintop and tried to gain her freedom in his stead, but that did not work out, and she perished. But now Oralek is still alive. Things are not going as Volfred planned, and Volfred is a big-time planner. He wants everything to go a certain way, and now he is vowing to stand with the Nightwings again himself. He had previously been hanging back to just sort of to machinate in the background, but now he will conduct the rites as one of us. We will need his help. He is one of the saps, as his race is called. They were one of the last character archetypes to be developed, and they're the most kind of technical, steepest learning curve. Though they can be really, really powerful. We played a lot of them in versus mode. Actually, Darren, our audio director, was really, really good with them. We could go confront Manly again. We can confront Ignarius again. Let's see. There's a fun interaction between Volfred and Manly. Since we failed to liberate Jodariel, we could try this. Actually, have we been back? No, we've been to the Hulk again. We can already go back to the Isle of Kelmer, and let's go check up on old Iggy. Yeah, fly all the way back down. Ignarius and the Tempers. So hopefully this cycle of the rites will go a little bit better than the last one did. I don't know. Oh, and here's our first.
I do so hate to thusly contact you, O reader.
We were talking about how
Yet an awful
the voice can pop
rumor
in
recently
to the story.
that you have within your retinue
A traitor.
a traitor
So
to the night
the voice
wings and
back in the
Commonwealth
Commonwealth
alike.
is on
But you
to
would
some
never
sneaky
harbor
plans
such
that
a
we're up to.
traitor, now would you?
because they know a little bit about what's going on.
Within the downside would have taught you that.
The wonderful performance by the voices by none other than Logan Cunningham, in case you didn't know, who provides the voice of the narrator in Bastion and the voice of the Transistor in that game. You would almost, I think it would be very hard to guess that just from hearing the performances, because his voice sounds so dramatically different in each game, and that speaks to the caliber of Logan as an actor, really. He's been really fantastic to work with over the years. I can always rest assured that I've said before, I could write, because I do the writing for our games, I could write the worst, hottest garbage, but Logan will find a way to make it sound truly amazing and from the heart. He adds so much to the words I initially put down, and Darren and Logan go way back since they were kids together in middle school. Darren conducts our voice recording sessions with Logan, so there's so much history there, resulting in some of the spectacular performances that we get from Logan.
Is it Logan time? Is it
we
Logan talk?
it was the first of the jump scares because
yeah.
Volford has now officially decided to don the robes again, and but the Archjustice is
Unhappy.
yeah, he's starting to sniff around, catching wind of some bad stuff happening.
I guess actually, if Orlik was trying to put together the old Triumvirate, he would have a sap.
Maybe, but he really has hard feelings toward Volford at
That's
this
true.
point.
That's true. So maybe not.
He's like, you just stood there and let that. He thinks that Volford maybe not was an accomplice to his betrayal, but didn't do anything to stop it either. Oh yeah, this moment.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
The most key story moment in the entirety of Pyre.
You scare Dad.
Just the ability to run into Falcon Ron on the road here, but this is the introduction of the cursed talismans, but also the ability to pick him up, and it's the one time we were talking before about he's always one step ahead of you, but this particular time
We gotta tell him to get in. This stream.
We gotta give him a ride.
Yeah, this stream is all out of respect for Ron.
Just squeeze right in. He does not.
Boomoo asked earlier, is playing with all the Titan stars even possible? Yes, we have had people on the team do
totally. When we were in kind
tip-top shape.
Yeah, when we were in better shape, it was less of an issue for sure. I like this moment here is gonna be -5 glory in the rights just from being around Falcon Ron for a brief leg of the journey.
Oh yeah, this is also the only glory penalty in the game.
It's certainly one that is that massive.
Yeah.
Yeah, these guys, they're not a set, but they're like themed. These are really silly and interesting. The one that turns you into a howler some of the times.
Yep.
Yeah, you cannot grasp it. They have these really weird trade-offs. They're really unusual and fun to play with. Yeah, you cannot cast.
They're really cheap too. That was the other thing.
Let's try this.
We gotta take them all off his hands. No, we don't have enough money. I knew you were discerning customers.
Oh yeah, and you can't refund them. You bought in. Oh wait, does he actually let you? Maybe he does.
We just lost.
Did we get scammed?
No,
maybe
I think
we
we're
did. Okay.
I mean, if we got scammed, that's excellent. And
Yeah.
I 100% support getting scammed.
I think they were supposed to be non-refundable in keeping with the idea. That
Really old questions about if the streams will be uploaded. We hope to be able to support that, and we're still figuring out exactly how we do that.
And now a small detail, but since Tamatha and the Essence prevailed in the Liberation Rite, they're basically stricken from the board here. They're effectively out of the running because it would take too long for the Essence to regroup to have another shot. That's the whole idea, that the outcomes of your rights really truly have an impact throughout this game, whether you prevail or fail along the way.
Good question from Failer. How did Falcon Ron get his name? ? Seeing as he's not a Falcon. So
Yes.
that is
That is again protected information
Yeah.
for which his associates may
Yeah.
may
He's saying he's not even remotely falcony.
that
This is
yes,
this is an
we accept this feedback and criticism. Are we gonna keep just like losing? Oh, what the heck?
Did you lose last time?
I mean, I lost in the liberation, right? Like,
Oh, is
I
that the
haven't-
last?
Yeah, yeah,
is that
yeah.
the last right we were?
Yeah,
in?
because we.
Who are we up against?
This is the Tempers again. I picked the Tempers.
Which we lost with these on.
We already yes. So maybe we should be. Hold on. Yeah, let's back up. We don't want to just lose all of the
Okay, so
remaining.
what we should do is not minus 30 pyre health.
Yeah,
so we have
let's go with Eastlock though,
Okay.
just to make it more.
I think Eastlock is fine. I think quickness is fine, but not hope.
Yeah.
I think presence they can have. Let them have their presence.
Let's see.
Don't
This
want
is
that.
maybe okay. This is maybe okay.
This is what has been shortening our.
yeah.
yeah.
Is that good though? Because
Yeah,
it
maybe,
keeps
yeah.
things moving one way or another.
Don't do that then. Let's
Yeah.
let's do that. 50% stamina is no big deal.
All right. Yeah. Let's try this.
Okay, so we're using roughly half the available Titan Stars. I'm happy, by the way, Greg, to play on if you want.
Oh sure. I'll do. I'll do this one. Then you'll go. After this.
More Ron speculation. I bet Ron is secretly one of the scribes from Nexorus.
Or should I say deceiver? For I detect that
This is
another
a fun
exile in
speech
your
from the
ranks.
voice. Now he knows
The
Volfred's
exiled
plan is revealed,
Volfred Sandalwood himself,
and we get some of this.
cursed sap.
We
I'd
can
have known he was behind all this.
nasty point of view from the
He
voice
has no
toward
love for our
toward
sacred
Volfred,
tradition.
because
Yet
Volfred has
he
been
uses
scheming
poisoned words
from
over
his point of
my
view anyway
own.
to
I thought
overthrow the Commonwealth in a way, really.
then fine. Let
I
us
think you were
return
talking
to
about
a more
Hedwyn
formal
and
distance.
Orlick?
were you talking
Or-
about anything? I don't know. There are questions about how someone ended up falling in love.
Oh,
Mark said-
Hedwyn and Fikani, we had that
Yeah.
conversation of Hedwyn's backstory.
Aren't they supposed to kill each other? Why didn't they?
Why didn't they?
Yeah.
Because of the power. How can there's man? I was about to say I'll just be cheesy about it. It's the power of love, man. So I'll shouldn't say too much, but there's a scene. There's an old film,
And there
Japanese
is at
film called
last
Macross,
alive
which has a wonderful moment where two characters on opposite sides of a war who have been fighting
quite a stir
to
out
kill each other have a moment where they see each other for the first time with their own eyes. They're kind of like the cockpits of their vehicles have been destroyed, and they see each other face to face.
tolerated here.
And they fall in love from that moment. And it struck me since I was a little kid, actually. That's not like a super specific influence on the Hedwyn Fikani thing, but I think it like led me to believe that such a thing can be possible. There are many instances of like in during wartime, you know, people are trained to just kill their enemies, but that doesn't always happen. Sometimes people have empathy for those on the opposing side, and Hedwyn's story is suggestive of that kind of experience. So now we've learned a bit to how to conduct the rites with Volfred. I spoke before, when you stepped out, that the Saps were one of the last of the triumvirates to like fully come online, and meant to be some of the, you know, it's no accident that they're the last that are kind of introduced in gameplay, and they're some of the most technical to play with, but they could be very, very powerful once you learn the ropes.
What
of
curse
them.
talisman did you put on Wolford? You can come back as a howler.
Yeah, that's
Or
going to
infinite
be
stamina.
very ridiculous, so why not give it a try?
Yep. Those are some large auras that we are rolling with.
Yeah.
Yeah, the sap is technically, I think, one of the hardest exiles to play, especially since their evasive move is a shield and not a jump. So
Though the shield is
yeah, they're also
there's the shield in action.
yeah, they're also one of the most frustrating to play against
As Darren Korb,
if you play against Darren, award-winning audio director Darren Korb, who works on our team, found ways to make us hate our own video game through deploying the
Oh boy,
the
that went
saps.
really poorly.
Yep.
Okay, I have low hope on this particular on this particular set of exiles. So wow.
Yeah, it's actually
Oh jeez.
late game. Like hope actually becomes one of the more important stats because being out for a long time can be problematic. It's also really dependent on the
Oh come on.
the match site you're on. Like these smaller match sites mean characters who take a really long time to come back after banishment is
Glory.
yeah, it can get harder.
Man, they have a lot of.
Did Darren make you nerf saps? Yep.
Yeah, he did. didn't
There's
he?
a straight answer. You scored
Yeah.
without passing. Nice. We aspects of saps that used to be even more overpowered in versus mode. They used to have a shorter cooldown on their shield. Their sapling used to spawn the aura faster. They used to.
Oh
This is a
no.
bad scene for you.
Wow.
You have infinite stamina with Volford at the moment because of your black heart. Oh, take advantage. Oh no, you ran out at the worst time.
Curses. Oh no.
Yeah. So Darren. Not only did he make me nerf
Okay.
his stabs, he made me hate.
Still too
hate
many
the
Titan
stabs.
stars.
Yeah, still too many Titan stars. So we maybe start really back, make it a little bit easier on ourselves. When you release a game, how do you personally deal with reviews? Being so small, it must make criticism more personal. So I think the smallness is not what can make you take criticism personally. It's mostly just like you're emotionally invested in your
Yeah.
work. So certainly there's criticism can be felt. I think it's really important that if you do creative work that you release commercially, that you be open to the idea that once the work is in the world, all of that feedback and kind of criticism and stuff is valid in some way.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I think we all take it in different ways, but I think, some of it comes from playtesting a lot as well, but I think we collectively share a point of view that there's no denying someone's experience. So as much as you want everyone to love your game, if they don't love it, you like extract from that what you can, and you sort of accept that was the experience that they had. But getting mad at someone for not liking your game or something is I'm way past the point of being able to think that way. I don't know that I ever thought that way personally as someone who used to I used to be a game critic for many years, and there were people who were like, how does it feel, now that your stuff is getting reviewed after like dishing it out? Can you take it after dishing it out for so many years? And I think for me personally, it made it, it probably makes it easier to process rather than harder, because I know that when I reviewed games, it was never like, this developer sucks or something. They should feel bad about their work. It's just like reporting on the experience that I had.
Oh no, we already done accusers a bunch.
Yeah, we can.
Pyre Hearts 2-0.
We can have some
Fate
Faye Almer stuff unfold there. Yeah, so like you said, I think the size of the development team doesn't really. There are big development teams that I know. It's still a bunch of people there. They'll still absorb criticism one way or another. I think it comes down to how people personally take it, but we try to just be introspective about it, and we put stuff out there knowing not everyone is going to experience it the same way, and hopefully most people will find something to like about it, and whether they do or not, it's good for us to get the feedback, and it can be instructive in our own development as a group of game developers, right?
Yeah, absolutely, and it becomes part of. We talked about what distance does to your understanding of your own work, and it becomes a part of that narrative also. Any one review might make you feel great or might bring you low, but in aggregate, you start to get a sense of what did people think? Yeah, what did people think about your work? And that's an important kind of whatever data point in your own narrative and understanding of what you've put together.
I mean, thankfully, we our games have been. We're very grateful that our games have been very well received by by the gaming press on the whole. So that certainly helps. That not just that, but reviews here on Steam and whatnot. That there are a lot of really mindful like. I like that Steam has the ability to sort of like rate other people's reviews and say whether it's not rate them, but say whether it's helpful. And like the negative reviews that are voted helpful tend to be they're like very thoughtful. They're very instructive. We like appreciate that they're there because for a certain type of player or customer, they can before you make a decision about what game you want to buy or play on Steam, it like can really help to know what type of experience you're getting into. And sometimes you read a negative review and it could actually encourage you to want to play the game because for that person it wasn't the right experience, but you read it and it's like, whoa, that sounds amazing. I have that experience with movies a lot where I'll see a bad review of a movie, it'll make me want to see it because what they didn't like about it are aspects that might be appealing to me or stuff like that. So I'm glad the information is out there and that there are many perspectives you could get on, which wasn't exactly the question, but that's just more commentary on the wide availability of reviews of different points of view.
It's a good question. Got us talking about some interesting stuff. So appreciate that. I'm gonna go with Faye. I don't.
Is it timed? No, you gotta hang on to her. Still, we could give Jody another shot out.
We are still a ways till, or I don't know how many more rights until the next liberation right.
Well, it's starting to speed up. So.
Yeah. This is Broken Wheel.
For sure.
Broken Wheel.
Oh, is it?
Hard to know. Faye.
Do you have more, or you got to play rather than?
Yeah.
Questions? We can figure out the.
I can.
Seat switching. Or
well,
something.
why don't I play? Actually, if you don't mind the right, if you can get me to it.
Yeah.
This is one of the Faye's more kind of spiritual moments, right? And it actually sets up kind of some of her endings.
Yeah, that's right. She's someone who part of the way that she's gotten by is through her kind of unwavering faith that the scribes are out there. And for certain people in Faye's life, she's probably seemed like she's loopy and not entirely there or something like that. And you find out that that is connected to a reason for exile, that people, she was deemed moon-touched, and that's enough to get her out of there. We have our messenger. Oh, yeah, here's an example of a messenger imp event about one of our adversaries. So, to interrupt myself. Yeah, so the essence are, Tamitha is back at large, and Pamitha knows that just because Tamitha has been returned to the Commonwealth, that doesn't mean that she is forgiven.
Question for you, Greg. During development, did you ever try to play the game the way a pro critic would to discern how well it will be received? Probably, like, I think the way a pro critic would play the game would be to just play it, you know what I mean? So I think for sure we try to be mindful of how... Here's the thing about critics. They want out of a video game the same thing that basically anyone wants, which is for it to be good and worth their time. So having done that work myself in the past, it's like, I don't find it mystifying. I just think that they want a good game and like a complete feeling experience, and it's really not dissimilar from what the average game player is interested in. I do think about what, we think a lot about the first impressions of our games and how they layer in information, but those are all things that are of concern to anybody who's gonna play it, I think. So there's not too much sort of reverse engineering of what a critic is going to think specifically. To me that would feel sort of disingenuous to the creation process if we're like building the game based on what a critic would want us to do versus just like for our audience in general. Yeah, we should still tone this down. Why are we getting super rocked? Not the minus 30 health, and not the more cunning because we're on heightened difficulty.
Yeah, and also I think the stamina. Are we doing the hope one? We're not doing the hope one.
We're doing quickness and presence.
Man, I feel, or this one's all you actually. So you do what you're gonna do, but be careful.
Who are we? We're against.
This is the fate.
Oh, I'm fine with this.
Yeah, easy. What's an old dog gonna do, right? What harm could he possibly be capable of?
So
We're getting the pretty intense ones, the essence one, and then the fate liberation rite. I think is one of the more emotionally intense ones, kind of whether you prevail or not.
We return once more into the nest of Trieste.
Oh wait, this isn't. What was I thinking? I thought it was a
Liberation, right?
Yeah.
No. We got. I don't know how many more we have in this particular cycle.
Yeah. This particular environment was cool, like having these kind of almost like deadly pitfalls, and this more precarious looking environment.
Here we get the interaction between Faye and
and Almer, or Dalbert rather, trying to set something up between them. It's kind of a charming little moment, hopefully.
Yeah.
But
of Kerr.
Yeah, and it was fun to have Almer. The trivia about Almer is he's like one of the only characters in the game, and again, he's not like a major character or anything either. He's one of the only characters who underwent a really significant like character, like an art redesign. Jen sort of did him over later in development because his original look didn't match the kind of personality we were going for with him at all. A previous version of him was much more of like a aw shucks, like sleepy kind of dumpy kind of guy who looked really checked out. But Almer is actually this really intense kind of noble-hearted kind of character, and the updated the portrait that we winded up with for him, I think really matches that. We use this expression, we've used it a couple of times, the idea of some of these other characters being the protagonists of their own stories, and Almer to me is a really good example of that, where you could almost have a whole video game, from the point of view of a side character. Like, here he's a side character, but could you have a video game based on a young man raised by a kindly dog father like Dalbert? Perhaps you could. And Almer's a good guy. He's a good-hearted guy. He's trying to do right by his father and honor his dad. So he is one of the more kind of empathetic adversaries that we face during the rites here, and
he just fell into
and he just fell to his death into lava. Alas, yeah. Anything in the chat?
So there's a question about music. When you started developing Pyre, did you plan on having the massive amount of music that you ended up with?
I mean,
I think a lot of aspects of Pyre we wanted.
Plan is a strong word when it comes to too many aspects of Pyre's like entire design, and we had a feel for what Pyre. We had a strong feel for what Pyre was going to be, but we didn't have like a super specific idea of its structure, or like how much stuff was going to be in there. It's through the course of a lot of the prototyping and iteration that we start to get a feel for how it's all going to work out, and then we like. We really have to figure that out as we go. But a big part of it for us was an intention. We didn't intend to make a bigger game with Pyre, whatever that meant for us. It may not be bigger in the grand scheme of things. Of obviously there are games out there offering 200 plus hours of gameplay or something like that, and we weren't aiming for anything of that nature necessarily. But big for our team in terms of the size of the cast of characters. The feel of the journey. Nice one there. Oh, you're going to wisely go for
Well, I can see their respawn.
toss, yeah.
I can see their banishment timer, so I made
a wise move.
Yep.
Yeah, so, but Darren, certainly was able to outdo himself on this one as far as the, not only the volume of music in this game, or the quantity of music, but also just the way we use music dynamically. There are so many new tricks and things that we tried in this one that I think worked out really nicely.
I'm trying to do my favorite May move, but it's not working for me, which I will try.
Oh yeah.
Again in a moment.
Oh, look at Dalbert with the moves. He did the that's one of the
So
like
here's-
tossing the orb into your adversary
My favorite-
causes them to drop their aura and become vulnerable. So that's like a really fun, like advanced technique.
Another one
playing
is
versus mode.
Oops,
Ooh,
no, it's not
got
working
nailed.
for me. I'll get
well
to it
done.
eventually.
Oh, jump! Oh, it fell short. You better be careful.
So the thing I like doing with sudden grasp is to throw it, and then you use the taunt
Yeah.
to come and pick it up.
Nice.
And then you try.
Yeah,
and
that's one of Faye's masteries there, that she can kind of teleport
Yep.
straight to the orb. Man, they're putting some pressure on you though.
They're
Oh, that is not good.
No, but it's okay.
Wow. Wow.
They taunted.
Glory to the scribes.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Those are little moments, you know, that is good Gavin Simon artificial intelligence right there.
Yeah.
That they would do a thing like that. That was pretty cool. Leaning away from the microphone. For those joining more recently, I can do the introduction one time.
Do it.
Hello, we are Supergiant Games, or two members of it at any rate. My name is Greg. This here's my colleague Amir. We are playing Pyre. We have been streaming each of our games as part of our Steam weekend deal over the past couple of days. We streamed, Darren and Amir streamed Bastion on Thursday, and then we streamed Transistor yesterday, and today we are streaming Pyre, our most recent and biggest game that we've ever made as a studio, and it's really cool to be hearing from many of you in the chat, hearing your impressions, answering your questions, and also down to one.
Oh my God, this is bad.
Re-experiencing our own games for the first time in some time, since we.
Oh no.
Yeah, though Amir's in a tough spot. Oh, be careful. I feel. See, I'm no esports commentator because I'm like riveted by this. The same as, oh, this is so bad for you. Oh no, the lava. And where are they at? They're at 15. Oh, the fast break. That was so greedy. The greed on display.
I wanted to
The greed.
Oh no, I'm a howler.
The incredible greed. Wow, the Howler can't pick it up. This is due to a cursed talisman, so... no, wait, you can pick it up. What? I guess... Or
He
you
just has
have
no
no
powers.
aura. Yeah.
Yes.
Wow. My goodness.
It had to be done.
That was madness.
I can't be taunted and not return the favor.
Yeah, I can't believe what I just...
We did it
Yeah.
though.
You know, part of the
did
fun
it.
of working on this game is that it's like capable of producing these outcomes like this. Our previous games, they had more scripted moment-to-moment encounters. They still have like dynamic outcomes, right? And but like when you play through a game like Bastion or Transistor successive times, there comes a point where you know what the encounters are going to be, and there's only so much wildness maybe that they're capable of once you've played them many times, as we tend to do during development. So part of the fun of developing a game like this for us was to keep it fresh for ourselves, where every time we played it, the narrative would unfold differently, these rights would unfold differently, and even now, after working on it for 3 years, we're playing it now and seeing new
Max
outcomes
level
each
Jody.
time.
What do you like on max level Jody?
Let's see what our options are.
It's either going to be the
the one on the
make them sort of
yeah,
fumble
the
or-
instantly recovering stamina is pretty huge on her.
Okay. And then Faye. Oops, I was already
Faye
max
is
level.
maxed.
I only used her because of. So someone brought up
to make
the
sure you
massive
win.
amount of kind of inspiration that Wolford has, and that's because he was
Yeah.
a previous rights practitioner.
Yeah, it was a fun little detail to include.
Yeah.
Also, so that he can like rise and. I think we thought about starting him at like maximum rank or something, but then it denies you the cool choices, and it was even.
definitely take
It felt more authentic to the story, actually. That the idea that he would be rusty, he just like hasn't been doing it for a long time. Just like we haven't been playing for a year. He hasn't
Yeah.
been playing for
Yeah.
closer to 5 years or so. So he would have to relearn some of his old tricks, and it also matches the idea that as a player he can be hard to get used to.
Yeah.
Oh, but now it is time, I believe.
Are we? Is it? Oh, C1, which is familiar.
Yeah.
That means it is time.
Let's see,
We
who's
are
it?
close to.
So you knock the Fate down, or rather the
It's gonna be the
Fate.
Chastity.
Oh, the Chastity. They're a good one to because Manly gets upset in a unique way whenever he's defeated. Though if we lose to Manly, that would be most ignoble indeed. So we don't have too many opportunities left here, and each cycle is turning faster and faster at this point.
So, question for us on this next liberation rite, which is, do we try again for Jadariel, or is it time for someone else to go back?
Yeah, that I was wondering that myself. It's pretty interesting to think about trying again, and those are also outcomes we supported.
Yeah.
we had to support because we didn't want any of the story to repeat, but you could like try and fail with a given exile any number of times. So there's like, I guess there are up to 6 subtly different events for if you have like failed with the same exile but keep choosing the same one for liberation over and over and over each time you go to the Fall of Solium, where they're like increasingly like, oh man, I don't know if I'm gonna be the right one, and then after a while they just kind of shake their heads. That was fun to get to think about how the characters would feel in that kind of situation. But we could, I think Jodie is one of those characters who feels like she most deserves her freedom among these, just having been here for so long. But she doesn't seem like she's got sort of a surrogate family back in the Commonwealth. There are people there who care about her for sure and would be very happy to see her if she were able to return. So I approach it often from that standpoint of thinking through what's at stake for the characters and wanting to choose that way. She's also a powerhouse on our triumvirate right now,
Yeah,
so we
she's
don't
max
necessarily
level. But
wanna,
I think it's time.
yeah, we could give her another shot and not use all the or not suck like I did. Yeah.
Is Jodie doing one more
Prayer.
prayer?
Paying her respects. So, yeah. So more hope on Jodie is actually quite useful. That's one of her
Let's
weaknesses.
get a little bit more. I think we need.
Yep, we're
hope.
cramming for the final exam.
Yeah, I think
coming
we
up
definitely
relatively
need
soon.
Yeah. Hope's real important as the game goes on, because you will get banished. The as they get more the opposing triumphants get more masteries and talismans and stuff. You just spend more time banished, so you need that faster
Get
return.
back in there soon.
I don't want to use Gilman. Actually, don't want to use either. But let's just go. Let's go with Pam with that. Can you get me to the right while I check the chat? What do we got here? Dalbert is best dad.
Dalbert's a pretty good dad. He probably is the best dad in this, unless you're a big fan.
Canonical best dad. It's been answered here.
I said probably, but yeah, he seems like a genuinely pretty good dad for Almer. If you're gonna be stuck in exile with your dad, you could do a lot worse than Dalbert Oldheart.
A
Here we are at
lot
Scribesgate.
of people saying that there was a lot of hubris in my last match.
It was good hubris. It played well for the screen.
Yeah, for those wondering where this is streaming on Steam, where the thing is available now live. We're live.
Yes,
From our
indeed.
studios in San Francisco, California, and we are streaming our third video game, Pyre. Right now, it's only here. Were there any tentative titles? There was also a question about alternative titles earlier up for Pyre.
There were a bunch. It's funny. I don't know how much we talked about title stuff. Titles go through a lot of iteration. We tend. Bastion was the exception. Bastion was like always Bastion, though that is very uncommon. Because one of the things about titles is that even if you think you have the perfect title for your video game, there is a very high likelihood that you legally cannot use the title that is the perfect title for your game due to a wonderful field known as trademark law. Anyway, we're not going to go into the details of that, but the long and the short of it is that it is valuable to have many options for what you would like to call your video game if it's a game that you want to release in like a commercial capacity the way we've done with ours. And so when we get to a late enough stage in development, Bottled Void is pretty cool. We tend to, once we have like a good understanding of what game we're making,
You should upgrade Headwind's Talisman.
Yes, we should. Then we start to come up with a list of title possibilities. We will kind of evaluate them on teams. Some will bubble to the surface, and eventually we'll kind of make the decision to pursue, see if we can actually get some of them from a trademark standpoint. But Pyre, I don't immediately recall what were some of the others we had in contention, but when we thought about Pyre, we really liked it for this game.
Yep.
It quickly jumped to the top of the list, even though we had a pretty long list of others that were like had some benefit. I love this conversation in this game. I don't know that we need to go through the whole thing, but this is like relatively good chunk of the way into the game, but you're really learning all about the classic Nightwings here, and you're learning about their relationship between Volfred and Oralek and Erisa, these other characters that, I was really happy that, actually, so the Oralek story, there's plenty more to that to come, but two of these other characters, Brighton and Erisa, Erisa, like, isn't in the game at all in the sense that she has long since passed, and she is only in the backstory, and I was really struck by how much her story still mattered to some fans of this game. I was really glad that story stood out. I think it's a pretty intense story, so even though you don't really see it play out before your eyes, her decisions and her background like led to some of the critical events of this game. It's cool that resonated. And then as for Brighton, there's a pretty big reveal in the story here. And of course, we are spoiling the heck out of this game, so if you don't want the game spoiled for some reason, why are you watching? But you have 5 seconds to get out of here, actually even less. You discover here that Brighton is none other than the voice that you've been hearing, the Archjustice, that after he was liberated he was a previous member of the Nightwings, whose liberation made room for Volfred to join. He became the voice, and you learn of this connection between liberated exiles and how the Commonwealth continues to be governed. It was a fun little, Logan's character, the voice, it was such like a flavorful character. He added so much to the tone of this game, but it was really exciting to connect him to the story itself, and it's not enough to have him be just a commentator with like no connection to the story. He has to have some point of view. He has to be connected to the events, and the idea that he himself is a former exile was like a really fun detail to include. And it's totally optional. You can skip that entire conversation and go through the game without really knowing. It's kind of fun too. We're going into a lot of these optional conversations. I suppose we don't really have to. This one's all you, right?
Yeah. I will. Who am I facing?
Who are we facing? Well, we're about to find out. I don't remember.
I remember either.
We've been
Oh
playing,
no, it's Manly.
Yeah. Oh yeah, of course it's Manly. Yeah.
I think since we wanted to prevail, I'm just gonna do a couple.
Yeah, you cut it pretty close before.
Mm-hmm.
So.
How do you decide when a game is done? When to release it? That's one of those ones.
Yeah.
Sometimes gets asked. Comes up.
At a certain point, you're like close enough. So we talk about this in different ways. We reach a point in development where we're like noodling with stuff past a point where it is super noticeable, and sometimes the noodling can even have like a disruptive impact on surrounding content. And we've made a lot of the most impactful design decisions long ago, and we get into this sense that like, hey, it's time to wrap it up. We start to feel it intuitively, and then from there we extrapolate how much time we think we're going to need to wrap it up, and we sometimes come up with an internal date. Deadlines can really help, and then we kind of drive toward that. But it's a pretty intuitive process to decide when you're done. You're never truly done, except there's the point of view that you're never done. You just run out of time at a certain point, no matter how much time you take, right?
Yeah, I think for us too, there's not there's a real difference between perfection and completeness. I think we strive for our games to be complete in all forms, but not necessarily perfect, because sometimes their little imperfections can really add to the experience. I just lost chat, which is good, because which I will have to repair in just a moment. Also, I've been left alone here, so it is just me and this liberation rite, and we are gonna try again to get Jody out of here. So this is the second time that she's gonna try and get liberated. So this time I hope I prevail, especially since I'm up against Manly, who is kind of a jerk. Going with the powerhouses on my team, which is Faye. This is one of those power gamer things. You can sometimes make a different decision. Like when I normally play through, not being watched by thousands of people, I'm always trying to be efficient with my enlightenment. So I would never field an exile who is already max level like Faye is, but I don't want to disappoint the stream and I want to win. So I'm putting her there. So I have speed, I have defense. I could use some utility in Wolfred against someone like Manly. I'm actually gonna. No, Bertrude isn't high enough level. Let's do Pamitha. So I'm headed in to this liberation rite, and I don't remember precisely how annoying Manly is during this conversation, but we'll find. Oh, I forgot I had the Jewel Band and Rune Band on Pamitha and Jody.
Yeah.
So good setup, us.
Yeah, what does Manly do here? I guess we'll find out soon enough what his dirty trick is.
There is something
It's
I could
fun-
use your help with.
Yeah.
Do you know JP's number?
Yes.
Okay, we just need the password for this,
Oh, that.
and not to say it out loud
Yeah.
in front of thousands of people.
The password is
Yeah.
password.
So we can get our chat back since we are without them.
We'll be right back, chat.
Yes.
We're temporary radio silence with the chat.
For this rite in particular, I love Faye's unlimited stamina with the orb, because it's just so big. This is also one of those like rites we talked earlier about the importance of having like good hope scores later in the game.
Yeah.
This is one of those rites where you can get away with fielding multiple lower hope characters like Wolfred and Jody, just because it's so big. So you'll have a better chance of basically coming out with, even if you get banished close to their Pyre.
Oh, that was a good move.
Yeah.
They
You'll come
the
back.
other thing that it was the cool detail you implemented with it, where we knew that this was going to be the kind of the landmark that in some respects you're likely to see more often than the others. And so
Oh yeah, this is where he cheats and heals his Pyre.
Oh yeah. He man, 50.
Yeah.
It's quite a bit. But yeah, every time this sort of cover configuration realigns, so you can't quite just memorize the layout of this location, and every round it's a little bit different to keep the action on it feeling pretty dynamic. Message delivered to JP, but we shall see. I'm gonna try calling him too. The other thing I was gonna say is Tamitha in the previous Liberation Rite crushed me so handily that we didn't even get to see her sort of dirty trick come into play, where they advance up the field to start with. And I remember reading like some players were like super upset by that one in particular, which I thought was like kind of amazing, where it's like, oh my god, she's cheating, that's not fair, which on the one hand, is kind of hopefully they didn't feel super bad about it, but
Yeah.
on the other hand, it's cool that they felt like so passionately about it being like a violation of the rules, because we did want to set up these rules that aren't meant to be broken, and then having characters that are, you know, filled with their righteous indignation and are gonna mess around with things.
Yeah, I think the other thing about that, I totally understand the feedback, and we're sorry if someone had a disappointing experience with it. Is
We tried giving them a call. Yeah.
it's not actually strictly better to start further up, because it can make it a little bit easier to get behind you, basically. So I think it's supposed to feel a little bit unfair, but I don't think it gives them as much of an advantage as some players sort of perceived, or at least I hope it didn't, or at least that's the way I sleep at night. Hard to say. Oh, I almost dunked it. What shall I do to defend against this worm? Not that. That was not the right move. So when both Jody and Pamitha are on the sort of field together, I'm getting the bonus, the set bonus basically from their runed and jeweled bands, which is really, really useful because it means I can get Jody really far down the field. I wouldn't normally just try and douse the pyre with her all the time, but because of that bonus, I'm like using it a lot. See if I can jump this. Oh. Ooh. There we go. So now we're witnessing the impossibility of me properly talking and playing. Oh, I'm down to the last one, and if I don't succeed here, then Jody will not go free, and we're not going to save Scum, so I really need to focus. There we go. You're gonna see me toss it a lot in these circumstances because when I'm this far down, I always want all my exiles for basically defending. So I will always. Oh no! Oh my God! Looks like the chastity prevails, which means the worst of all outcomes. Jody is not gonna go free, and Manly will go free. And Greg is here just in time to witness the end of the liberation, right?
What?
To the chat at home,
Oh
I'm
my
so
God.
sorry.
Joe Dariel.
yeah. Yeah.
Apologies to Jody as well.
Yep. I just didn't have what it took, and that time I wasn't even trying to be cute. I just couldn't win. But it's okay. We'll have another chance to get Jody on.
I'm sure Jody appreciates that.
Yeah.
Wow.
All right, Greg. I'm gonna hand this over while we try and recover our chat.
Yeah, I also failed. You'll be pleased to know to get.
All right.
But
I will give a.
we'll figure
give a
something
call.
out. I tried, but yeah, give it another shot. So yeah, we are gonna proceed, and yeah, the most smug Manly Tinderstauf is going to return home in glory. He is one of those guys where, you know, with some of the triumvirates like the Fate, you know, you don't mind so much if they return, but Manly, yeah. What a character.
Godspeed, Manly Tinderstaff.
Look at that pose.
The 8 scribes are watching
That's
from afar.
Camilo Vanegas is our 3D modeler and animator. He did all the wonderful character animation
Keep turning
for
as long
each of these guys, like capturing so much of their personality in these kind of like in these relatively quick moments. So the thing about Pyre, of course, is that this is good. One of the things about the game that you discover as you play is like you go in thinking that you assume that getting everybody free and return to the Commonwealth is like that's the goal, that should be what happens, but over the course of your journey, you know, freedom may mean something different to you, and it's part of the journey is discovering that, and it may not. How you interpret whether you whether like prevailing in the liberation rites is like necessary to like a happy outcome is really, we wanted players to reflect on that. And it's interesting to think about how actually the only way for all of the exiles of the Nightwings to stick together in the end is for none of them to be liberated. So, and I think I've seen some players play the game from that point of view. This moment here, I should talk about this. This is what we called the big speech, where the reader takes a much more assertive action than he or she or they have taken thus far. And it's a moment where you like interact with the text very directly to kind of represent gathering your thoughts and composing your words. And this moment came together relatively late in development. It was something that was perhaps ill-advised to execute as late in the game as we did, but it was an important moment for us to include, we felt, and I'm happy with how it came together. So you can sort of make your speech feel more or less optimistic, more or less kind of militant. So let's see. None of you pursue this quest with any guarantees. One cannot assume that it would have a happy outcome. Since our liberation rites aren't going too well, let's take a more real tone with our exiles here. The Commonwealth is already in upheaval, and the outcome of your previous sort of speech influences the next set of options that are presented before you. Let's see. The Commonwealth is already in upheaval. Its troubles are only beginning. The injustices committed on the other side cannot continue. So let's try to galvanize. We previously said, if you've been tuned in for a long time, we want revenge against the Commonwealth. That's our version of the reader on this particular playthrough. So this feels like an in-character sort of thing the reader might say in this situation. So now is the time to stand and fight the forces that oppose you. I think this theme of fighting for your own sake, for those who do not fight, do not prevail, for those. So let's see. Yeah. Prevailing is about fighting. That's our reader's point of view. You know what? You could be defeated, but you have to go down with a fight. That's okay. If you cannot see the merit in this quest, I like this one, then you're unfit to stand among the Nightwings. Yeah, so this is, we've taken this speech in this more like negative direction, but it still, you know, hopefully feels intense. You're unworthy of the stars' waning light. And then your last sentiment with the group. Our cause is just and we shall not be stopped. We are the righteous. We shall have our day. The stars may die, but our cause shall live on. Whosoever dares oppose us is welcome to try. That's the one. So that's our speech. Everyone's like, whoa, dude. Reader, you've been pretty quiet. That was hardcore. Damn right, my friend, says Hedwin. Bluntness is appreciated, reader. We're going through the big speech right now. The characters the different characters in your triumvirate who still remain respond differently to the different things you say here and stuff like that. So it's all kind of a moment where the dynamic narrative of Pyre, I think, really comes together in a specific moment. I'm glad people liked it from folks I heard giving commentary about it. It was fun to replay right now. That was cool. So, and Volfred, this is the moment also kind of in the narrative where Volfred, Nuxalis, it's all the characters who remain are the ones who call out. Volfred has been the kind of muscled in as the leader of the Nightwings as soon as we met him, but this is a moment where he is kind of more acknowledging that you, the reader, are have had a very impactful role in all this and sort of cedes the captain's chair over to you in a way, at least spiritually. You got it, Amir?
We're working on it.
There you go.
Yeah, I got it.
Oh, okay.
I got it from the password now. That question is just about everything else. So.
Ah, yes. Are we live?
We do not yet have chat.
Okay.
Oh, I think it's overheating.
We're rolling though, yeah?
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
the
the
stream
stream.
is
Okay.
live.
As long as the stream is live. Yeah, we apologize. Our radar is blind. We cannot see the chat right this very moment, but we are solving that. We're just going to keep playing and talking through. So thank you very much for tuning in. By the way, we are many hours now. We've been playing Pyre since 9:30 in the morning Pacific time, and now we are deep in. There are, we still don't know exactly how many liberation rights are remaining, but it can't be too many by the looks of things. Things have been going pretty bad for us because we've been playing with Titan Stars at kind of the maximum difficulty level of the campaign. And both the Chastity and the Essence have defeated us. We've only liberated... We've only liberated 2 exiles, Ruki and Tizo thus far. Yeah, so that's not too great if you measure success in terms of exiles liberated. Let's see, we can confront Barker. This is a moment where this is a fun moment also where you could basically confront just about any of the triumvirates. Normally it's about 3 of the landmarks that you can go to, but let's see, do we have unfinished business with anybody here? We can confront, there's Deluge, or are there certain, let me see here. We can go against the Fate again, perhaps. Let's try that. Let me see who's up in the planner. So in the planner, if we confront the Fate and we defeat them, then they will be kind of knocked down the standings, and we'll be much more likely to face the Dissidents next. That feels really mean. I would feel better about knocking the Dissidents down. Let's do that. I like the Dissidents, but the Fate, you know, if we're going to keep losing liberation rights, I wouldn't mind losing to the Fate, I suppose. Okay, let's get on with it. How goes it?
Good. So the laptop we use for chat is dead, but my phone lives. So
Excellent.
We have
backup plans.
We have some phone chat capability. It's a little less good than what we had before, but who cares, right? We'll make it work.
Farewell to Moonlight Alcove.
So
it'll be even better actually, because that way when we hand over the controls, I can rock the chat.
This is definitely one of my favorite scenes. How long did it take for you to conceptualize this? Speaking.
Oh, the big speech.
The big speech.
Well, I was mentioning that was some. We referred to. Actually, it was Mike Verdu in our Electronic Arts days who used the term silver bullets during the last stages of game development. Like the metaphor is that imagine you have like a magic resource to use as a last resort during times of great peril, and the big speech was something that normally at the stage in development at which it occurred we would not have been making we would not have been adding content of that like kind of complexity, but we all talked about it. We all saw the value of what that was going to do for the narrative at that time, and we decided, okay, let's make it happen. And it was like a focused bit of work. You know, it must have been. We got the first version up, you know, relatively quickly under that stage of development. It's more about making sure to thoroughly test it and making sure it wasn't breaking everything around it, as is the case. You know, the more finished your game is, the more precarious it is to add anything to it, to make any changes. It feels like I used the House of Cards analogy yesterday, talking about Transistor. You feel like you have this great big like patchwork sort of Frankenstein video game, and it's barely holding together. You don't want to mess with it. You just want everything to work, and you know that any small change can disrupt the whole thing. So this is a cool little moment.
A lot of people were saying that was one aggressive reader. 1010
Yeah.
would inspire again.
I went with a super. I went with
yeah.
the super aggro
Gigi
version of
Reed
the
said
speech.
I had no idea you could go that aggressive.
Yeah. But I also previously said when Celeste asked me why I wanted to go back, I said to take revenge against the Commonwealth.
Oh, nice.
So I'm role playing a reader who is pretty pissed that he got exiled.
Yes.
Which is seems like a valid reaction to have if you're gonna get thrown down a waterfall
So
to the downside.
Network guy just chimed in to say that he left for a moment to buy the game. Thank you,
Oh,
by the
thank
way.
you.
Super appreciate
Really,
that.
really hope you enjoy it.
Yeah, this is we're later in the game, and we're spoiling tons of things, but we're super happy you could join us. You're welcome to experience it here with us on stream or try it yourself. And also a good opportunity to thank anyone who's bought one of our games or bought one of our soundtracks and supported our studio. We really appreciate it. We are only able to stick together and keep doing what we're doing because of you, and we don't take it for granted. We try to earn your purchases and earn your trust.
Thank you very much.
And we hold it in high regard.
I love. I'm a fan of this scene. I'm glad this scene was able to come together.
Wait, Ron.
There's Ron first. Yeah, let's go. Yeah, and I was
First
referring
thing-
to this scene, talking to Falcon Ron for the 19th time or
Yes.
whatever it is.
Yep.
Yeah. Do we have any?
What is
business?
the
What
last-
this
this-
one? Typhoon bottle.
Oh, this is the.
Oh, that's actually pretty legit. But
basically
we
the
can't nearly
Wolford's.
afford it. We've stopped. Well, we can get rid of this. But the scene I'm referring to is about to occur. You don't. It's actually entirely skippable, which is funny because we've been doing most of the Black Wagon interactions, but and we'll do this one again. But we go in and there's someone here. And this is not someone we normally... It's having the moment where someone is in the Black Wagon who really should not be there. And there are a lot of subtle details to support this. If you try to leave, there's an explanation for why you can't just bail out of there. If you try to use the Beyond Our Crystal, now is not the time. Now is not the time to mess with the book. You just have to deal with Orlek here. And even if you kind of check at all the little status items, everybody seems to be conveniently away right now. And you are just trapped alone with Orlek, who has expressed such hatred toward the what he calls the false Nightwings. And so we hope that this moment would sort of, within the context of this game at least, would feel kind of terrifying. The moment when you're just kind of at the mercy of this character who feels like he could easily overpower you. But the interaction with him goes a different way, and you get to kind of say who you are to them. Let's say we're Wyatt Earp is my friend. Go with that line of reasoning. Orlek is bitter at the idea of being friends with these false Nightwings. But he means you no harm and he leaves, but that's a chance to gain a little more insight into that character before we inevitably confront him late in the game again. Yeah. It was fun to have, like, as part of this, what we referred to as this open structure of Pyre, where you're like encountering these triumvirates kind of in a different order and based on a variety of choices that you've made. We wanted to have these moments where the structure is sort of disrupted and you have this character, or you have the true Nightwings and Orlek that kind of like throw the more predictable structure into disarray. Any suggestions on these? Oh, you disabled these lock, huh?
Yeah, I still lost.
Yeah, it's getting,
It's getting
heightened difficulty
Yeah.
plus Titan stars is no joke, even for us having worked on the game. Folks have asked, is it possible to prevail? I think by now, this is all of them, right? This is all of them unlocked.
Yes.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold on, I lost count. Yeah, I think so. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. That's got to be all of them. We could try it. There's a funny voiceover line that happens if nothing else. Who are we up against? It's the, well, we'll see. Let's try it.
All of the Titan stars.
Sheer madness.
Sheer madness.
Yeah. At this point, we're deep. We can afford a few losses, maybe.
Yeah, maybe not during a
Liberation
run,
right
but-
again, since we've lost 2.
Ah, the infamous reader returns,
And back to the,
along with his remaining retinue of miscreants.
yeah, this is a mean
Too
speech.
bad you failed to rid yourself of yet another one
so-
last
He responds to
time.
your
Your
failure to
adversaries, the
prevail in the liberation
dissidents.
right.
As with you,
Oh, it's the
they must
dissidents.
be
This is gonna go really
very
poorly.
desperate
they're gonna,
They
they're
shall
like,
not make it any easier from
they're like
here.
snipers or something at a high level. They're so good with their aura casting. So
Oh,
let's see.
yeah. This is the dissonance. This is good.
And he
You know,
responds to old the rookie no longer being
Oh, yeah.
with us. But let's see here.
My phone keeps wanting to show me the stream instead of the chat.
Quickly, your
It's okay.
Oh yeah.
Doesn't know how much I value the chat. And appreciate
You had it before, yeah.
Yeah, I have chat. I have
Yeah,
chat
cool.
again. We're chat full.
So what?
Fully maxed